Welcome to the My Creative Days podcast, where we will talk about all things DIY, home decor, decorating tips, and creating a beautiful home on a budget. I am hoping our time together will spark a creative idea, help you plan your next DIY, or inspire you to finally tackle that project you keep putting off. Grab your favorite cup of motivation and let's chat. Hello and welcome back to the podcast. Today I am going to be talking about the BRRRR Method, if you've ever heard about the BRRRR Method. And it is something that we are kind of diving into for the first time, since we are going to be having 3 investment properties within 6 or 8 months. We've been waiting for 5 years to get 1, and now we're going to have 3. And so we really wanted to dive into this process just because in the past let me back up. I'm already getting ahead of myself. I do that all the time. So at the time of recording this podcast, we will be closing on our, if I have the numbers right, 10th investment property in 2 days. And just today we went to the bank and kind of finalized all that. And so I feel like I can, talk about it now. I've gone through the process. I love doing that. I love if it's a product, if it's a process, if it's a project, whatever it is. That's why I built My Creative Days is to be kind of the guinea pig, or to be, show you and inspire you to do those things, the project, the process, try the product. So anyway, now that we've kind of gone through this process, I can talk a little bit more about it. I wanted to wait until we actually went in and it was all finalized so I could, really talk about the process and what it looked like. So in the past, we have it's like we would get 1 investment property a year for a little bit, and we flipped most of those. And then we did have a duplex that we rented out. And then a coffee shop came in and bought the land and stuff where the duplex was. So we no longer have that one. Well, in 2020, we had our last investment property, and then we sold it. And then, basically the whole world shut down, and, real estate prices were just crazy. But I was diligently looking for properties for those 5 years. And then the end of 2024, we got one. Then I found out literally within a couple months of getting that one that somebody we knew wanted to sell and wanted us to have the house. And then I got a call. It was the day my dad got moved to a nursing home. I get this text that I did not see coming about a potential other property. And I was like, okay, we've been wanting this, and now it's coming in it a lot, and it's coming fast, and we need to buckle up because things are going to look different. And so we just have to figure out all our options. And so today I'm talking about the BRRRR Method. If it's something you've ever thought about in investing, it's something that we are now doing, and it's smart. So I just thought I would kind of talk about it today. Now, I will never give you financial advice. I am not a tax expert, a financial expert. I am just here to share our experience, what we're learning, and then hopefully it can inspire you to look into it. Or, if you have other questions that I'm not answering, or if questions come up while I'm going through this, please reach out to me. Email me, Lindsay@mycreativedays.com. Reach out to me on Instagram @mycreativedays. I have the website, TikTok. I'm in all the places, but definitely let me know if you have any other questions. So yes, so before we jump in, I'm looking at my notes here. This episode is for informational purposes only. I'm not giving, like I said, any financial advice or telling you what you should or shouldn't do with your money. I'm just simply here to share the best basics of this method so you can kind of better understand how it works. So let's talk about BRRRR. So what is BRRRR? BRRRR is the acronym that stands for buy, renovate, rent, refinance, repeat. It's a strategy that some investors use to grow their rental property portfolio using the same initial capital over and over again. You can do, a lot of people will do this for Airbnb, rental properties, and we have thought about Airbnb, and one of these there's been 2 that we've been going back and forth with. We finished our last one like a month ago, couple months ago, and we already have some tenants in it for the year. So that one's done. But These other two that we're going to be getting, we've kind of gone back and forth. The third one that we're buying, the tenants are going to be in there when we actually buy it. So I think we can't make a decision on that until we get there and talk to them and see kind of what they're thinking. If they're going to want to, redo a year lease, maybe do a 9-month lease because we're taking it over from another person. So anyway, so we're just kind of up in the air. But I do know, I do watch and follow a lot of people that invest in real estate. It's something that, like I've always said, I could do this all the time. I love houses. I love the projects. I love the DIY. It's just the transformations. They're just so much fun. So I wanted to really understand it. So basically, let's break down each part of the acronym. So buy. So obviously, this is the starting point. The goal here is to buy a property, typically one that's distressed, undervalued, needs some updates, maybe just hasn't been loved over the years. The one that we are buying in 2 days has not been touched since the 60s when it was built. Literally. Has never been painted since the 60s, has never even cleaning. Like there's cobwebs and things. I mean, it's a great sturdy, it's got great bones, but they literally did not do anything unless they really had to. They did not spend their money ever. So basically that's really your goal. That's the kind of property you're looking for. Investors usually using this method usually look for properties that are priced below market value, often because then they need repairs or because they, like I said, haven't been maintained. They don't have repairs. They didn't get repairs done. They haven't been updated. The key in this step is making sure the numbers make sense. This is the huge part. You need to do your homework up front to make sure the property has potential after it's fixed up. And so after it's fixed up, you want that to appraise for more. Does that make sense? But we're finding out in this process, there's some other things. And I'm sure every bank and every lender and all that, it's going to look a little different. But we've actually learned some different things about the properties and how that appraisal works. So there might be some other options, but every lender is going to be different. So, I should start off this by saying too, go into your bank and talk to them about what your options are. Just tell them, set up a meeting and say, hey, this is what I'm thinking about doing. And then they can kind of go through all of it and what they offer and all of that as well. So that's the buy process. And for us, I'm always looking for houses that need some work or have not been updated or just haven't been loved. Like it's one of my favorite things to do is to take a property. And sometimes it's just like adding paint or just a brighter color. It's just to make it so much better. So that's what you want to be buying for this process. So the second part of it is the renovation, the rehab. So once it's purchased, it's time to rehab it, right? So this could be anything from, like I said, basic cosmetic updates, like the paint and the flooring, all the way to major renovations like electrical, plumbing, new roof. But it's not like you're going to be adding additions. Well, I guess I shouldn't say that because it depends on what you're investing in and how you're going to use it. But for us, we're not doing anything like that major. The idea is to add value to the property. So then when it's reappraised later on, it's worth more than what was originally paid for it. And ideally more than the purchase price plus the cost of the rehab. So whenever we are making over, so even when we were just flipping, you have to take into account what the rehab's going to cost. And you also, when you are buying, you need to know what a realistic selling price would be for this house. Let's just say, if you were to make it over, buy it, what could you sell it for? Just kind of always keep that in mind so that when you are planning the rehab, when you are, negotiating the buying price, you know that end goal and you don't want to go over it. And for us, we want to come way, 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 way under it. And we have in all of our properties. So you want that big gap. And so it's kind of the same with flipping, right? So you want to make a great profit at the end, but it's the same here with the BRRRR method because you want the appraisal to be more than what was originally paid for it and rehabbed. So the third one is rent. So after the rehab is complete, the next step is to get some renters in. You want to get some people in your property. Investors typically look for tenants who will provide, obviously, consistent monthly income. So for us, we were signing a year lease. The rental income is key. For refinancing, lenders often want to see that the property is occupied and generating cash flow. I feel like they weren't really upfront with us. And I guess I shouldn't, not that I'm throwing them under the bus or anything, but so we were under the impression that, we bought it, we rehabbed it, then we had the and we already had the lease signed, but they hadn't moved in. So the appraiser came through and our appraisal was amazing. We were so excited about it. So we were under the impression, and I don't know if this is like across the board, right? We were under the impression that you could then refinance it and get the cash out, right? A cash out refi at 80% of that appraised value. And that is the case, but we needed to have the renters in there for a full year showing that rental income. And it was like, what? Wait a minute. Okay, so why didn't you tell us that up front? Because maybe we would have done something a little bit different, but it all worked out in the end. So basically, but I would not tell you to just wait that year. I would, again, go to your lender, go to your bank and say, this is kind of what we're looking at. This is, blah, blah, blah. And just tell them what you're going through and how it looks for you. So then instead, what we did is we just did the cash out refi for 80% of our purchase price. But as we got in there today and we were talking about things, he actually kept that appraised value in it because I'm thinking this I need to get more information about. There could be something that they could use that, after a year, he said, we would go with that full assessed, appraised. I keep saying assessed. I'm sorry. Assessed is what your taxes are based on. Appraisal. I'm sorry. We could go with that full appraisal value to get that more of that money out. Does that make sense? After we have the tenants in there for a year. So we were able to do the cash out refi for what we paid for it, which it's so funny. Out of the 3 houses we're doing, this was the one that we paid the most for. These other 2 the prices were so great. It was like we couldn't not get them. So it actually worked out great. But just know that. And like I'm saying, I don't know if this is across the board. I don't know if different banks do different things. But that is something that we learned. So, and I was not waiting for them to be in for a year because these houses kept coming. So it was like, okay. And we didn't know that until after the appraisal was done. I want to say I should ask Matt that for sure. But we were just going along and we're like, okay, we're going to get, 80% out of, for the refinance cash out to buy this next one. And then we got the appraisal and we're like, oh my goodness. And it was exactly what we thought we could sell the house for if we were flipping it when we initially went through it. So everything was lining up. And so we're like, okay, this is going to work out great. And then we're going to have this other cash out for this and blah, 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 blah. And then he came back and he's like, well, but wait, we need to have a full year of rental income in that. And it's like, what? Okay. So then we're like, well, what do we do? And he's like, well, we can do the 80% cash out, whatever, refinance for what you paid for it. So anyway, that's what we ended up going with. But we still in the paperwork have that appraised value and we can use that after the year. Let's take a quick pause. If you flip furniture, you need to know about one of my favorite tools, the ServPrep 3x4 sander. It hooks right up to your shop vac. Hello, less dust. And with the foam pads, it sands edges and curves like a dream. Seriously, it's changed the way I work on every furniture flip. It is worth every penny. You can save with my code, MyCreativeDays10. I'll link it in the show notes, and yep, it's an affiliate link, which means I earn a small commission, but it doesn't cost you anything extra. Now let's get back to the episode. So the next part of the BRRRR method is refinance. So this is, I always do that. I kind of already went there. So this is where things get interesting. So after the property is rented and has increased in value thanks to the rehab, some investors will go to a bank or lender to refinance the property. Now I did a podcast episode of different ways to, finance. There's a lot of different things you can do. So I'm just talking about the BRRRR method here. So basically the goal with this refinance is to pull out the equity, meaning they might be able to get a loan for a percentage of the new higher value of the property. Sometimes the loan can pay off the original purchase and rehab costs. In some cases, investors end up with much of their original capital back, and that brings us to the final R. So some investors will refinance the property and get a loan for a percentage of the new higher value of the property. Okay, so when I was writing this down, I was honestly taking notes in the car after we left the bank. So basically, this is explaining that percentage, right? And, if you've had somebody in there rented for a year, in our case, we needed that to get that full appraised value. Otherwise, they went by what we paid for it. But that's how you can end up with much of your original costs, including the rehab in some cases, because hopefully you're buying this property at such a great price. The rehab, you're staying on budget, and then you get that appraisal that's much higher. Then 80% of that, or whatever percent your lender is going to do, might come in really close to that entire initial investment. Another thing is you don't have to use the entire amount too. So depending on what your situation is, maybe you've got some cash, in the bank that you want to kind of use too. So maybe you only want to take out, $50,000 for the next one and $50,000 of the refinance part. And then you're going to use cash for the other part, whatever it is. It's going to look different for everybody, but this is basically what that process is. So that brings us to that final R, repeat. With some or all of that capital back in your hand, in the bank, whatever, then you can go out and do it again. So you'll buy another property, you'll rehab it, you'll rent it out, you'll refinance it, and then you'll repeat the process again. So over time, the BRRRR method can be a way for you to build a portfolio of properties while recycling your initial investment funds. And the good thing about this, and I'm going to be completely honest with, I love doing this, and having one, we have had two in the same year, but we were flipping them. It was like, this is great, and for 5 years we've had none. And then we got these three, and I'm going to be completely honest. I've had a hard time sleeping. I've had a little anxiety over it because I'm like, it's just so much. And a lot of it's new because just some circumstances that have played out. We've just had to look at different methods. And so just the newness of it. And then it's like, wait, now we're getting a loan for this. And if you know me, if you've watched any of my content on social media, you know that I am the saver. Matt is the spender. But this for us is smart and makes sense. And I just have to keep that and this like the knowledge of what it actually is in mind and just stop freaking out. I don't know. It must be age too. I don't even know. But we have a lot of stuff going on the sidelines with family too. So that has added a lot of stress. And the thing is, you gotta remember, and this is sometimes what I forget, but it's like once you're reminded of it, you're like, oh yeah, your rental, the people that are renting from you, they are paying that loan. Does that make sense? So they're paying that loan, the interest, the taxes, the insurance. Their monthly rent is going to pay for that. So it's not like you're going to have all these extra, loans. Obviously, if you don't have it, if you don't have somebody renting, for a while, obviously, but hopefully you have been padding that account or you've been, keeping that rental income, you're not spending all of it, right? Because you need to remember those bills are coming up, your taxes for the property, your insurance, once a year, anything else that may come up that you need to fix. But as far as the loan, your rental income should cover that loan. So, and he kind of went through that today. It was actually something we had to sign. And he basically said, this is basically saying, and we have an LLC and all of that. So, that's another whole part of this that I'm not going to go in today. And again, I would never give advice on that, but basically says, okay, so if that LLC or, your bank account for that can't make this monthly loan. Basically, the rental income can't make this payment that you guys are personally liable for it, which right? But your rental income for your places are going to be making that payment. So let's talk pros and cons. Again, just sharing info here. I'm not giving you any recommendations, but I just thought this might be helpful too. On the upside, it's a way to potentially scale faster because you're not putting new capital into every deal. It also focuses on long-term cash flow through rentals. On the flip side, it involves a lot of moving parts, finding the right property, managing rehab, dealing with tenants, and working with lenders. If one part of the process doesn't go as planned, it could throw off the whole strategy. It's something that requires research. I mean, a solid plan and a good understanding of your local market. And I say that all the time whenever I talk about it. You need to know what the houses are worth in the end. That's like your number one, because that's going to then start the ball rolling and tell you what the purchase price needs to be, tells you what the rehab needs to be. And then, okay, so then if I need to refinance, I know that it can appraise for, this, hopefully. And then I can get more cash flow and cash out refi and all of that and to roll into the next one. So whether you've heard of the BRRRR method before, or this is your first time learning about it, I hope it gave you kind of a look at what the method is all about. When I first heard about it long ago, I was like, well, I could never get it right. BRRRR, what? Buy, renovate, rent, refinance, repeat. Like, it seems so simple. And now that we've actually walked through it, I'm proud of us because, like I said, some other circumstances have kind of come in the way of our regular how we do this, and it went really great. So it's something that we learned, something in our journey that I didn't think we would ever do, and here we are doing it. So again, not giving advice. I'm just trying to share some knowledge so that you can start understanding the different strategies that exist in the real estate world. There are many. This is just one. And one that we just finished, and I kind of know what it looks like and what we went through. So if you have any questions, like I said, email me, Lindsay@mycreativedays.com. You can always reach out to me on Instagram @mycreativedays. Just send me a DM message, and I'll be happy to answer. And like I said, if I get a ton of questions, I will definitely just do a follow-up podcast because it can help so many other people. Because I always say if one person has a question, at least 3 other people have that same question. So definitely let me know. So that's it for today's episode. If you enjoyed this podcast and found it helpful, I'd love if you could take just a minute to rate and review it, no matter where you're listening, whether it's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere else. Your support truly, truly helps. It not only helps more people find the show, but it also lets me know what kind of content you're loving. So if you have a second, tap the stars, leave a quick review, and know that I appreciate every single one. Thanks for being here, and I'll talk to you next time. Hello, friends. Thank you so much for listening to the podcast. I'm grateful that you tune in every week and that you share the show with your family and friends. I love having creative chit chats with you, and my hope is that this podcast will inspire you to try a new project, start a DIY that you've been putting off, and decorate your home exactly how you want it. There are a few ways you can help us with the podcast. Follow the podcast so you don't miss an episode. And if you could take a few minutes to leave the podcast a review, that would help us so much. Again, thank you for being here, and I look forward to our chat next week. Bye-bye.